Yo, what's good people, it's JayCactus, and in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to create thumbnails and videos for type beats. I'm doing this one by request, so shout out to Prod by Squared for the suggestion. If you got any other ideas for me, then drop a comment and I'll make the one with the highest likes and also give you a shout out too. I'm going to be using Photoshop for the thumbnail and FL Studio for the video. So if you've already got your thumbnails locked, just skip to the video part. I'll put a timestamp in the description. I'm going to be showing you my process for my personal thumbnails for my beat page, which is just youtube.com/JayCactus. But the trick is to have your own style, because if your videos look like everyone else's on YouTube, then you're never going to cut through the noise. People just aren't going to recognize your brand. So take some of these techniques, add some of your own, and then try and come up with something unique. But let's get into it. Alright, so this first section is in Photoshop. It is paid software, but it's definitely worth it if you want to invest in yourself properly. But if you don't have the money, then use something like PhotoWorks, which is free. I haven't used it myself, but I'm sure there's loads of things you can do in it. So what I always start with first is this background. So this is something that I've created. It's a background image that I've used, and then I added some cactus spikes to it. This is like my brand image. If you see my free packs, I always have this on it. If you see my beat tape on Apple Music, Spotify, this is the kind of theme that I go for. So this is what I'm saying about, don't just copy what I'm doing, because that wouldn't represent your brand. It would just make no sense. You want to find something that's related to your brand, related to your name. So it can kind of take a long time to figure out, but once you've got it, then you want to stick with that. You want people to just recognize little things as your brand. But if you want to start with your own background, then literally just use Google. Just type in something like black background, any color you want, and try to find a pattern. This is what I wanted to do anyway. I wanted to start off with some kind of nice pattern. So this is what my blank canvas kind of looks like, because this is the template that I use. But if you're going to start a new one, just go to File, New. And then for YouTube, I'd set the size to 1920 by 1080p. That's just full HD, and then click create. And then you'd find your background wherever you've saved it, and then you could drag it straight in. Now, the other thing that I always use is a frame for the middle of the image. You don't have to use one, this is just my personal style, but I'll show you how I do it. So in Google, you want to type in PNG frame. PNG is just a file format, and it means that you can save the file without the background. So if you just get a JPEG and it's got no background in it, then you might have to cut it out. But usually if you get a PNG and you find a good frame, then it will already have the background cut out. So for example, you might want to use this one. So you could just right click and then save it. And then I can drag this frame in, and I'm guessing the background's going to be gone. Yeah, perfect. So the background's already out. You can resize it, or you can click the tick just to accept it. But normally to resize it, you'd press Control and T. And then I like to hold Alt, click and drag down, because that keeps it in its position and it keeps the original shape as well. So I'd maybe go about there, and then you can click the tick to accept it. Now, if you want to change the color of it, you can double click in the frame that you've just brought in, go on color overlay. It's already on white. You could go in there and change the color to whatever you wanted. I'll keep it on white for now just to show you. But the frame that I usually use is this one. It's just a scribble frame. Next, what you want is some kind of image. Now, most people, I do it as well. I like to take an image from a music video, but the problem with that is you don't really have the rights to use that image. So I'd personally recommend using a royalty-free site like Unsplash. I know there's quite a few, but if you want to use an artist, then do something like this. Drag the video in. I've literally just screenshotted this from YouTube. But again, because you don't own the rights to the image, if that original creator wanted your video down, they could take it down. So that's just a warning. I'll accept it first, press Control and T, hold Alt, and then drag up. I just want it the full size, like that. I'll click the tick again. Now I'm going to drag the image under the background, and you can see that it's hidden now, but what you want to do is play with the blend mode. So if I go back on the background, you want to click on this button here, and then you can play with some of the blend options. So the one that I like to use is screen. So now I've got the main background set, but I want to use the image again to go in the frame, but I want it to be clear in the frame. So to do that, I'm going to duplicate this. I'm just going to drag it over this plus icon, and you can see it's copied it. And now because it works in layers, I'm going to bring it back up above the background, but underneath the frame. Now you can see it looks like we're back to where we started, but I'm going to press Control and T again, and then resize it just until his face is in the middle of the frame. Around about here, it usually snaps into place. And now what you need to do is right click on the layer and press rasterize. Otherwise you can't delete anything from it. From here, I'm going to come to the rectangle tool, and I want to cut everything or delete everything up until the frame. So I'm going to drag it till about there and just hit delete, and then same for all of the edges. And then I'll press Control and D just to deselect that bit. The last thing that I want is my logo. So all you need to do is just drag in whichever logo you're using, press Control and T, and then just resize it and position it. To move things, you're just using the move tool. So if I move this across, it kind of snaps in the middle, and I've changed the blend mode to difference just because it adds a bit of texture. If you want to add text, then I'd recommend using a site like DaFont, and then you can go to horror, you can go to all these different styles, download the font, click on the text tool, select your font, and then you can draw a box. In here, I'll just type in type beat. I can press Ctrl and A to highlight it. I can change the size from here, or I can type in a size. Let's just type in 300. And then I usually position the box around it. And then here's a little trick just to get everything in the center. So make sure that the text tool is selected here. Then you're gonna click the rectangle select tool, drag it over the full image, then go back to this tool, which is the move tool. And then these align tools here are how you're gonna get it in the center. So I can click this one to get it vertical centered, this one horizontal. And now it's directly in the center. And then press Ctrl and D to deselect it. And then if you double click in the text here, you can do so many different things. You can add a stroke, change the color of it. Let's say you wanted it to go red. Maybe you want it to match. So I'll take the red from his jacket, maybe a brighter point. You can obviously adjust the size, the opacity, or you could do it as a glow instead of just a standard outline. So again, you can take the color, you can increase the opacity, bring the size up, and now you've got a glow. Or you could combine all of them. So you could add a drop shadow too, increase the size of this. You can change the distance. Now you can see it creates a shadow. So like I said, try and use these techniques to develop your own style. You don't want to look like anyone else on YouTube. It's hard enough as it is to cut through the noise. So the thumbnail is one of the most important things because it's the first thing that people are going to see when they're scrolling down. So you need to grab attention with it. But you also don't want it to look like anybody else's. If you look like other producers on YouTube, then people are just never going to remember you. Alright, so before we import this to FL Studio, you want it in 2 layers just because of the effects I'm going to show you. What you need to do is on one layer, you want to remove everything that's going to be on top. So I'm going to remove this one, the frame, and my logo because I only want the background right now. So I'm going to click on File, Save As. I'm just going to name it Type Beat Background and I'll save it as PNG. Now for the second one, I'm going to do the reverse. So I'm going to bring back the logo, the frame, and this, and then get rid of the backgrounds. Save it as Type Beat Foreground. Make sure it's PNG. If it's not PNG, then the background won't be erased, and then click Save. So now that we're in FL, I'm going to create a video using them 2 images. And the plugin that you want to use is ZGame Video Editor. And you need to apply it to the master channel so that it affects everything. Once you've got this open, go to Add Content, and this is where you want to add both of the images. So click Add Pictures, find the folder where you saved everything. You want the foreground and the background. You can hold Control just to select both. So click one, hold Control, click the other, and then click Open. So now you've got both images to work with. So now if you come to Main, you can work with all of the effects. So the first thing that you want to do is set this to Image. So go to Image Effects and then Image, and then select the background image. ZGame Editor works like Photoshop in terms of layers. So whatever is on the left, like this, is going to be at the bottom, and whatever's on the right is going to be on top. So we've got the background at the bottom, and then we want the foreground. So you could either come here and add another image, or you could click there and then clone this layer and then just select foreground for this one. And you can see that you can move the layers around. So if you click here, you can go on move layer right, do the same for these to move it left. So this empty one, I'll move it left. And then this is where you want to get creative. There's so many different effects in here. So just to give you an example, on the background, you can add things like fog machine, and now you can see the smoke coming underneath. It's coming underneath this layer. So if you didn't save it in 2 separate layers, it would just cover everything. But now I've got a foreground and a background, and the fog's in the middle. You can change the alpha to make it more visible, less visible. You can change the lightness, the size, the color, everything. Another good one is it's full of stars. I used to use this one quite a lot, and then I'd change the alpha. Like you'll see a lot of my old videos, I use this. I might roll with this for this one. And then one of the best features on this, which I see in a lot of type beat videos, is that you can make the picture move to the music. So what I mean is if I come on here, create a new layer, and then go to post process and audio shake, I can actually link this to the kick. So if I click on audio source and then click on kick, I don't want it to kick too much. I'll put it to, I usually keep it on 1%. And now if I play the beat, the picture's gonna move every time the kick hits. Just looks sick. You can literally link it to anything, but if you leave it on the master, it might be a bit too much. And if you change the amount, so that's why I leave it on the kick. So that's my style of video, that's how I create my type beats, but I'll show you a few other examples. So a lot of people like to use these effects. If you add a new layer and then go to post process, I think, actually go to peak effects and then try some of these. So for example, polar, I'm just gonna get rid of the foreground just so you can see exactly what it's doing. I'm sure you've seen a lot of people use these. Again, you can make it bigger and smaller with the radius. You can change the color if you come up here, go to red for example. So you might want your logo in the middle of that. You might want a circular foreground and then have the foreground layer on top of that so you don't see the lines. So for example, if I bring the foreground back, I can move the polar image to the left and now you can't see it. But if I play it, you can just see it behind the background. Alright, I'm going to remove the foreground again just to show you another popular one. So I've gone on a new layer. I'm going to peak effects and then linear. This is another popular one. So again, you can change the size. So maybe cover the full screen. The X and the Y axis are to reposition it. So X is to move it right and left. Y up and down. So you can bring it here. Increase the bands. Maybe the alpha a bit more. There's so many different things you can do with this. You just need to get creative, come up with your own style, and then you're good. I'm gonna get rid of that last layer and just show you a few more examples. If you want to add text, then just click on here, just to add another layer, go down to text, choose the text that you want. So for example, this one, and then go back to add content in text. This is where you can change it. So I just type in type beat tutorial, right? And then you can play with the settings again. You can change the size of it, you can reposition it, change the color, fade it out, you can even make it glitch. So that looks kind of sick. So just play around at this stage. So for example, just go on some of the canvases to quickly browse through them. You can find one that you like. I know there's one that I used to use. So something like this would look good, but then change the alpha so it's just subtle in the background. That fits it perfectly. Maybe another one would be this electric one. So just blend that in with the alpha. You can change the size, the color even. So maybe I'll make that a red color, but I'm gonna get rid of them for now. I'm just gonna keep this one simple. Quick tip, if you fade out your beats and you wanna use ZGame Video Editor, then don't fade it out using the volume in the mixer channel. What I mean by that is don't use this and then create automation clip, because FL Studio works in a certain flow. All of the effects that are on the top will happen first and the ones further down will happen last, and the volume will be the final point on the master channel. If you've got ZGame Video Editor on there, then it's fading out after it. Once you export the video, it's not going to have the fade out. So what you need to do is add an instance of Fruity Balance. So just open up Fruity Balance, make sure it's on top of ZGame Editor, and then right click on the volume, create automation clip, and then do your fade out from here. And once you've got your video and you're happy with it, you're just going to go to export video. I always have it set on YouTube just so it's ready to upload, and then I click on browse and save it where I need to save it. So the name of this track is Route 1. I'll save it in my video folder. Click OK, and then it brings up this. So this is just like when you're exporting a beat. I don't need the mixer tracks because I've already done that, and it will save a WAV or MP3, so I'd maybe just keep it on WAV, click start, and then it should start to render. And then once it's finished exporting, just drag it onto YouTube and then you're good to go. So I hope you liked the video and I hope you took some gems from it. This might be the first video that I've made without even making a beat in it. I didn't plan on doing this, but because it was a suggestion, you know, the people ask, the people will get. So let me know if you want any other videos. But yo, I can't stress how important it is to have your own unique style. There's so many producers on YouTube, but it doesn't mean that you can't cut through the noise. And having your own unique videos and thumbnails is definitely a way to stand out. If you want to know how to get more views and subscribers on YouTube, specifically for type beats, then check the link in the description because I wrote a full article on it. It's still methods that I'm trialing myself. I'm still trying to grow my beat channel. So if you haven't subscribed to that one already, it's just youtube.com/JayCactus. I upload all of my beats there. And I'm using some of the methods that some goats are using, like Ant Chamberlain and TNT. So we'll see if it works over the next few months. But if you liked the video, please like it and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.